Hello, Dr. Morris here. Welcome back to my channel on Minecraft and Star Trek, the building of the Starship Enterprise 1701 in Minecraft. This is the second part of my introduction to our ship. In the previous episode, I showed you around. We did a tour of the original prototype we see there in the distance and the 3D hull, which we see here, not fully rendered because we've got rendering turned down a little bit. Thought I'd just take you inside the ship and show you what we did and what we built, and maybe a little bit of hint to what we're going to talk about in the future. So let's go inside. We're going inside the hangar bay. We've had to remove the hangar bay doors. In the future we hope to have those actually retracting. It doesn't happen right now, and we see the original prototype of our shuttle made by Dave, my friend in New Zealand, who I work closely with on this. Let's just take a quick look. Now we see here on this hangar bay we've got a maintenance bay below, so it's 2 floors. In some of the episodes you did actually see, I think, the shuttle lowering into the maintenance bay. Right now there are no mechanics to make this lift, but we will have that in the future. And let's take a quick look. The shuttle is built to 3x specification, so looks pretty good for 3x. You get a little bit of actual reality to what the ship looked like. Here's the command blocks that we've been programming, that Dave programmed to have the ship move. It's got some controls, so in the final version you will be able to actually fly this out of the ship. Prototypes that are outside right now can move around, but we have learned a lot in the last couple of months, so we're going to probably have to redo the command block programming here. And as I said in the previous episode, a lot of what we talk about in this is not just Star Trek and Minecraft, but the advanced programming using command blocks. It's really a great interest of ours. Let's see if I can take us up. Let's take a look inside. This is my design for elevators to get inside the main part of the ship. We're going to have to actually use the corridors. Just take a break for sound problems that we're running into. I'll pick up in a moment. Okay, welcome back. Sound problems taken care of. So we're looking at the hangar bay observation booth. It's pretty much in the same location. I don't know if this design will hold, but we're keeping it for now. And we're on actually deck 16, which, let's go through it. It's a main corridor for the elevators, and you'll see here we've marked the corridors. I don't know, it's not from the original series, but I had to have some way of knowing where the heck I am when you're moving around corridors, because if they're all monotonous with the same color and tone, you get lost. So red for the port, green for starboard, and usually these melons here mean that you're at a terminus. So if you're going down in this direction, you're coming to an end. That's what the melon usually signifies. The black is usually telling you that you can go somewhere from there. Deck 16 junction 2 armor stand. We'll be talking about this also in later shows. We use armor stands to do the programming, to move things around. Armor stands are entities that you can program against, unlike bricks that cannot be programmed against from a location point of view. And we use this as a marker so we can move the elevator around. But I want to go over to, right now, I'll talk about that more later. I want to get over to deck 19 to show you the computer center that we looked at before. The prototype, top of deck 16. Let's go down 2 floors. 3 floors. Okay, that door is currently not opening, so I'm going to have to manually go through this little hole. Okay, here we're in the computer center. This is the more recent build of the computer center. Here you can see a lot of our command blocks. These are what I call monitoring blocks. We'll talk about in later shows that if you want things to work in Minecraft, you have to monitor for scoreboard activity and then do things on particular scoreboard activity. It has to be laid out a certain way, because if you put too many command blocks within a particular chunk, 64 to be exact, you will run into massive CPU issues. And that is just not necessarily a flaw, but the way Minecraft works, as is explained by Sliced Lime, who has taught us quite a lot. He's amazing. If you haven't seen his videos, I'll put a link hopefully in the notes below, and you'll be able to go see a lot of those. You'll probably, if you want to do any of the things that we're doing here, a lot of the training you'll have to do using Sliced Lime's amazing command block technical overviews and advanced techniques that he shows. For now, I'm just going to give you a quick flavor for the programming that we do around all those junctions using the armor stand you saw before. And here we have also an armor stand that's used to actually create a fill clock on this spot so that we can activate these particular command blocks when the computer center is actually turned on. The computer center is the primary clock of the whole world, so things will start working if you turn it on. So here we're in the modern version. You saw in the past episode the old command center based on the Mindtrek designs. This is kind of something we've been working on for our design. A lot of it's more practical than maybe artistically looking exactly like the original series. We had to have command blocks all over the place to do things. So the primary clock is here in the corner, actually, this bit here. I can't get in there from there. You'll see this here. This is a fill clock where we're doing a lot of primary boot ups that keep the other fill clocks going. So we have fill clocks that call fill clocks that call fill clocks, and we'll talk about that later. That's kind of the design in order to keep CPU usage at a minimum. If you don't do things like that and have tons of command blocks running when they're not needed, you will just pretty much max out your CPU and nothing will work. Or you'll have such bad lag, for the most part, nothing will work. Here's the new elevator design. And just to give you a flavor for what this place looks like when we turn it on, I will actually activate the clock. That's the boot up sequence for getting the basic programming in place. And now we turn on the clock using this handle. And we see here that we've got fill clocks running. Fill clocks are running here. This is the primary warp drive fill clock that keeps a lot of the basic timers going. And we have also some fill clock here running. This is used by the elevators. And now you'll see the elevator should work, but it will not work until you're within 15 blocks distance, and then it will not actually open until you get close to 5. The reason for that is we wanted to keep any fill clock, and you'll see it here as I get approach. This thing should start lighting up. And there we go. The clock is, the status indicator is blue, showing it's getting ready to open. And you'll see over here, those fill clocks just turned on. If you go here and back up a little bit, get away more than 15 bricks away, it should turn off. There. Now you see that it's actually blank. There's no fill clock running, and that's because we just moved away. Let's move in close and activate it. And we'll get within 5 blocks of the armor stand, which is programming it. And I think it should open. Here you go. That is the elevator. I'll show you later how this works. But this elevator will actually take you over to the primary, over to engineering, where Scotty hangs out all the time. But you see the green light is signaling that you're ready to go. You will come in here. You would, right now this is just fairly recently built, so we're just prototyping the look a little bit. We can go to engineering of the bridge. Right now the one that works is engineering. And what that does is sets a location and a path. And the path is done using a whole series of armor stands. If I can bring up that scoreboard here. These are the turbo lift shaft scoreboard with, you can see, a bunch of armor stands in memory that have been assigned, and they have values, and those values will help direct the elevator as it makes its way over to engineering. We'll talk about that later and how we got that to work. Still not working perfectly. Minecraft doesn't always cooperate, so you just got to work around the problems that come from that. Let me just there, hide that for now. And you can see here the computer room. We'll build it out as we go along. There's lots of different things. We want to have monitors that will tell you some information what's going on the ship and things like that. For now, let me see. I'll take you back in here and give you just a quick look at some of the other parts that we have actually that are worth looking at. You can see here, if we go on the other side of the elevator, still lots of open space, not yet filled out. Here's an older elevator design. with lots of fill clocks. This was unperformant. It's going to be changed using the newer designs. And over here at the end is engineering, where we can see a more recent build of the warp drive. And you can see frozen here right now. A lot of this has to move when we get it working. The warp conduits with plasma going through. And here are some of the controls that light up. Here's the elevator doors that will open up, the turbo shaft doors that will open up and let you in and out. And here is a little bit of the view into the computer center dedicated to engineering. This is older design. We were using a lot of these, very slow. Actually, compared to a fill clock, this is really slow to use redstone this way. And as the power makes its way to the various layers here, this works. But sadly, if you have all this stuff lit up and running, the chunk updates are just horrific and pretty much, once again, eat up all your memory. So using fill clocks is better, and that's really the technique we are employing now. Just a little quick look at the warp conduits that go up to the nacelles. A little top view of the inside of the warp core. That goes up to the nacelle. We have Jeffries tubes here on the left. We haven't actually built out all the way up through the nacelles yet, so that's coming later. Let's go here really quick. Just an overview in this episode. Let's go up. We're on 17. I think to go up through the neck, which goes up to the primary hull. We have to go here. Through 16, we came through this before. And we see all the decks going up. A lot of these are just observation decks. My daughter built some of these seats and couches. God knows what's really here. A lot of it's used for storage in the original designs. And we're now just under the saucer. We can't go any further because I have not dug into the saucer. But in the future, probably around here, the elevator will continue onto the bridge and we'll be able to follow it there. Going back down. So the neck gets longer and longer. If we look aft. Okay, and this is an important deck. This is deck 15, where we moved a lot of our programming. What you see here really are fill clocks that run only when triggered. They're dead right now because we're not doing something that requires them to be active. But the idea in a lot of the programming we do is to have fill clocks that call fill clocks that call fill clocks. So as the elevator right now moves around, a lot is dedicated towards programming the elevator. We have fill clocks dedicated to each deck. You can see here, this is a deck 19 trigger, a deck 18 trigger, a deck 17 trigger, and a deck 16 trigger. So as the elevator makes this around those decks, these fill clocks come to life, and then this code runs. And I'll share later more details on the actual code that's there and what's working, what's not working. But just to give you some idea of the complexity that we've got, it's kind of tough. You can always make a fill clock and put lots of command blocks, but what inevitably happens is that it's eats up your CPU and things just stop working. So we've been trying very hard to get things to work and then ensure that as we put more and more programming into the entire ship, that it continues to work. That brings us back to deck 19 where we started. I think we're going to stop here. It's a good spot to just take a break, and we'll have more shows later to talk about the command block programming and the way we're doing things. And it is an advanced topic, I think, the way we're handling it. So I think there's plenty of YouTube videos on just basics of command blocks and things like that. So we'll talk about what we've encountered trying to do command blocks of our own, and what works and what doesn't work, and if things don't work, why don't they work? I think that's a really important topic, because a lot of times people just do things and say, well, that's just how it is. Later on, when you try to repeat some of these tactics, you'll run into problems and you won't know why they're working or not working. So we'll try to explore that and try to explain things best with we've come to understand. And I'll try to point you to other areas of the Minecraft world if I think that's helpful. There are many people out there doing great work. Like I said, a lot of what you see here, at least from a design point of view, we took from the Mindtrek server that we started off. We thought we were going to be on there working with them, but as we did this 3x build, and got into command block programming, it's quite different. It's more than just making things look great. It's also about making them work. So in later shows, we'll talk about all those details. Anyway, for now, thanks so much for listening, and we'll talk to you again soon. Take care.